Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Four Quarters podcast powered by Four Quarters Media. I'm your host, Tyler Bennett, here with you once again. We're back after a 1 week impromptu hiatus. The uglier side of life reared its head, but we're back. We're here. Episode 17 is the start of a 16-week journey. Every episode of the podcast from now, August 3rd, through to I think it's November 5th, every Monday and Thursday are going to be season preview episodes because this marks the start of our 16-week journey to preview every single team in Canada, U Sports, CCAA, men's or women's. I'm going to try and do it all. Failed miserably the last 2 years. I say that, I can laugh at myself. It was a bit of a learning curve. Not going to lie. It takes a lot longer to write 2 to 4 previews every day. Who would have thunk it? I was optimistic 2 years in a row and fell on my face both times. But third time's the charm. Came in with a better approach this year. Worked in the podcast as well. We're going to put episodes out Mondays and Thursdays anyways. Why not talk about some teams instead of writing about them? So episode 17 marks the start of our 16-week cross-Canada journey to preview every single team in Canada. I'll put a link in the description of the podcast where you can check out the full list of previews on fourquartersmedia.net. You can see where your favorites are coming in, when you can either read about your team, hear about your team, or just learn about any team you want. I'm excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of interesting player movement in the country over the last few months, especially with COVID. Transfers are still happening. Commits are still committing, even though they can't visit a campus. And we're going to hear from a coach here in a little bit on kind of the challenges with recruiting in COVID. It's just going to be a lot of fun. There are a lot of interesting stories, a lot of teams that don't get the attention they deserve, a lot of players that don't get the attention they deserve. So this is going to really try to highlight essentially everybody. I'm optimistic again. There's going to be some teams that don't have roster information out, some teams that haven't announced any recruits yet. I try to push them towards the end of the calendar into October, November to give them some time. Obviously, with COVID and the rules, regulations, requirements changing every day because of the pandemic, a lot of the roster chatter and the season starting in January, conversations around the roster makeup for all these schools and their expectations for whatever sort of 2020-21 season we have. A lot of it's speculation because, again, everything changes every day. Cases go up, backpedal. Cases go down, hey, we might have a season. Cases go up, slow down. There's a lot of moving parts to this. So it's still good to get the conversation started surrounding everything going on in the world. But take it with, there's going to be some updates as we go. And trying to work in some coaches' thoughts, players' thoughts. It's just going to be a ton of fun. So whether it's social media, the website, podcast, follow along, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. The website, will link it all in this description. Come along for the ride. Cross Canada, 112 teams. One person trying to do it all. Wish me luck. Episode 17 marks the start of the journey. This is part 1 of episode 17. Of part 2 after, where we talk about the men's program. We kick it off in a big way with the St. Thomas Tommies. Talk about the women's program here in part number 1. And I was honored to be joined by head coach Fred Connors and the reigning ACAA Player of the Year and CCAA All-Canadian Vanessa Soffee, one of the 7 members of the returning group for the Tommies next season. Preview series started off with a bang. There was a ton of good conversation surrounding the Tommies, what they have coming in this season, who is not back, who is back, who's coming in their 6-woman recruiting class, 2 of which have some youth sports experience. You'll hear about that later on as well. We looked at kind of how the season went for them last year. Obviously, if you don't know, ended in heartbreaking fashion in the semifinals of the ACAA tournament. But they learned from that. And you'll hear both Coach Connors and Vanessa touch on what they took from the loss from both a coaching perspective and a player perspective, which I think was really interesting to hear kind of that insight and inside story to how they dealt with it. And it's still a fresh wound for some of them. With the regular season they had, the way they closed the year, to have it end the way it did, it stings. They'll have a battle scar, I'm sure, but it's one that gave them experience that you can't teach. So they're going to look to use that to their advantage going into this season, whatever version we have. And then we looked at the roster composition. Coach Connors gave us an insight on who's not back, who is back this year, and then gave us some thoughts on their 6-woman recruiting class. And then we ended the conversation with getting some thoughts on how we grow coverage of Canadian men's and women's university and collegiate basketball. And we're going to end every preview episode of the podcast with that same question. How do we get the level of attention to where it deserves to be? And there's a lot that can be done to get it to where it should be. They gave some interesting thoughts. We had some good back and forth ideas, and even an idea came up on how to improve, I guess you can say, the recruiting efforts for players or students as a whole who are considering a university but can't get to campus for a tour. May have just opened up some job opportunities for some students, co-ops, whatever, to try and improve some enrollment numbers. I got to stop throwing ideas on the podcast because I just word vomit. Some of them turn out okay. This one, I don't know if it ever will, but I had 2 people say it was a good idea, so we'll roll with that. But episode 17, part 1, St. Thomas Tommies women's basketball season preview with head coach Fred Connors and reigning ACAA Player of the Year Vanessa Soffee, kicked off the series with a bang. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. St. Thomas Tommies women's basketball season preview here on the Four Quarters podcast. Enjoy. All right, so I'm now thrilled to be joined by 2 members of the St. Thomas Tommies. We have head coach Fred Connors and reigning ACAA Player of the Year and CCAA All-Canadian Vanessa Soffee. Folks, how are things on your end out east? I guess, Fred, start with you. How are things?
Great. Things are like we were talking about a little bit earlier. It's very hot here. It's very humid. But I'm not going to complain because in the middle of the winter, I'll be dreaming and wishing that we had these days back. So.
Yep. Vanessa, how are things with you? How are you dealing with the said heat wave that you guys have going right now?
I mean, see, like I work almost every day outside, so it gets really hot, like with the mask on especially. But I mean, things are pretty good other than that.
It's, I guess, all things considered, it's doing the best we can with COVID and the heat and everything else that's happening. Because what have you guys, before we get into the preview, because this is going to serve as the preview for the team for next year, which we hopefully have a season, what have you guys been doing just to kind of keep sane, keep busy with COVID and staying inside and just the world we live in now. I guess, Vanessa, you said already you're working pretty much every day now outside. What have you been doing just to keep busy and keep some sort of normalcy in your life?
Well, I've been trying to spend as much time with my family and, work out every day, play basketball and work, hang out with friends, just the usual. And like, it's not normal, but like, you gotta do what you gotta do just to like, keep it normal, I guess.
I bet, Fred, for you, hearing her say workout, basketball, that's probably music to your ears.
Well, I even if she's not, she's going to say she is because she knows I'm here. So,
That's
but no,
true.
Vanessa's a very, very hard worker. You don't become a league MVP if you don't work hard. So I do believe her. But yeah, it's like for me, I'm a full-time teacher and a part-time coach. So
Okay.
And I have 3 very busy daughters. So between those 3 things, there's not much that gets done around the house during basketball season. So
Right.
Since COVID hit, there's an awful lot getting done around the house. So I'm on vacation right now as a teacher, but I'm really not vacating. I'm getting an awful lot of stuff done around the house. So
I think there's a lot of people in that boat. They kind of left that honey-do list to when they have no time, and now all of a sudden everybody's got time, and
yes.
all those lists are just finally getting done after who knows how long of putting them off. It's good, and it's probably bad at the same time because the stuff you dread doing, you now have no excuse but to do it.
Well, my wife, I call her my domestic supervisor. She doesn't like it. I find it funny, but she doesn't like it. But yeah, she's got a nice long list. So
I can imagine.
Volunteer.
I'm going to use that from now on too, domestic supervisor. I'm going to see how well that goes.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't go well, I might send my wife your way and say it was your fault if I get in any trouble for this. Before we get into the team, I guess, what's the one thing you guys have missed the most with everything stopping, shutting down? We're getting sports back slowly. The WNBA is going. The NBA is back. Hockey, baseball. Baseball's on the fence. I don't know how that's going to go. Hockey, you name it, it's coming back. What's the one thing you missed the most among this?
Well, to be honest, right now, Tyler, it kind of still feels surreal because our playoffs had just ended. And so our season had ended in its, like the playoffs, we lost, its season's over.
Yeah.
And then they announced shortly thereafter that there was no national tournament. So it was, MSVU got hit hardest because they didn't get to see their season come to its natural conclusion.
Right.
And during this time of the year, we're normally not together. We're training, we're doing our summer programs and stuff. So we normally go down to a tournament called Summerfest down in St. John that B&B puts on. So we didn't do that this year. So realistically, that's the only thing that's been different because we don't normally start up again till September. So I miss the girls because I normally miss the girls this time of year, but I think it's going to feel really different in September.
Right. Yeah. Especially if we don't know how many people you can have in a gym or workouts, if people are even going to come back to school, or is it all online? Like, there's so many questions still to be answered, and we're a month out of school now, which I don't know where I don't even know how many months have gone since March, basically. Like, it's been the longest year, but the fastest year at the same time. But Vanessa, for you, what's been the one thing kind of that you've missed the most since this is all kind of taken over everybody's life?
I mean, obviously, like, I miss my team and all that, but I mean, I kind of do miss just being able to go out in public and it just not be like just odd, everyone's just avoiding each other and all that. So just hoping that gets back to normal soon.
Going out in public's now a big deal. Like, it's the one trip a week. Like, I'm okay with the grocery store once a week. Like, I don't really like crowds or people in my space to begin with, so this is perfect. But we out here, like, nobody, I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but nobody wears a mask out here. Like, people had a protest today to go against the bylaw of mandatory masks. So it's not pretty. at all.
Yeah, we're not mandated yet to wear
Yeah.
masks. I would say there's still a pretty large portion of the city that do wear masks
Yeah.
while they're out.
Yeah.
Indoors, like if you go
Mhm.
outdoors, like
Right.
working outdoors, that a lot of the patrons don't wear masks, but
Mhm.
some businesses are mandating them,
Yep.
themselves. So it's
Mhm.
it's been really interesting. But
Yeah. So
yeah, it's different in every area, right?
our mandate starts July 31st, so Friday. We're recording this Thursday. It starts Friday, and Ed, I don't want to work inside. I don't want to have to police people, because if they're going to protest having to wear it in a mass group, no, thank you. I'll stay home. I'll call in sick if I have to a second job. It's not worth my sanity to deal with those people any longer. Looking at the season that was for you guys, 15-3, first in the league regular season standings, closed the year on a 10-game win streak. One of arguably the hottest team in the country down the stretch. Didn't go your way at the end. Obviously, the close loss to UKC. Hate to bring it up again. I'm sorry. Guess Vanessa, we'll start with you. Just kind of your thoughts on how the season played out overall from a player's perspective.
Well, obviously it was really sad. I mean, you work hard all season to get to playoffs, and then it's just not the outcome that you want.
Mm-hmm.
I remember at the end of that game, I was just feeling all types of emotions, like, oh, we're not gonna win the championship, like season's over, and all that. And like we were sitting in the locker rooms afterwards, and everyone was just sitting there like, oh, what if I would have done this? What if?
Mm-hmm.
But like at the end of the day, it's a learning experience. So
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you can't really teach experience, and you have to get in. Someone's got to lose. It's unfortunate when it's you and it's that close. Yeah. And hindsight's always 2020. It's always like, what if I made this free throw, or what if I did this or grabbed a rebound or whatever. It's tough. Like, I don't know. You don't really deal with it especially right after the game. That's probably the worst time.
Yeah.
To think about it, especially when it's so fresh.
Even now, I still think back and I'm like, if only like it would have ended up differently. But yeah.
For you, Coach, what was it the season like for you from your perspective overall?
Well, this would be my 18th season that we're going into, so I've kind of been around a bit to kind of get a feel for teams when you're heading to the playoffs. And this team at the start of the year, we're young. We only lost 2 players. We weren't sure where we were going to get to. So as things just started picking up and they kept getting better and better and better, I think that, we all knew that we were a championship caliber squad.
Yeah.
And then we went through a stretch through February where we beat the 3 best teams in our league quite handily at home.
Yeah.
And we felt really good about things. But the problem was we were physically very ill. Like we had Matty Owens warming up for a game and have to run over to a bucket and throw up. Ooh. And then we ended up finishing, like playing that game against Holland College with 7 players. Like we lost a lot of legs through February because of a lot of sickness and illness.
Okay.
But still, going down to playoffs, I've been a part of other squads heading to the playoffs, and I was like, this team feels good. Like this team feels like it's going to be a championship contender. Like we're ready for this weekend. And we just had I'll credit the Kings. They played very well. But we had a really, really bad day. We could not put the ball in the basket. Kings did a lot of good things defensively, but we couldn't score. So when the game was over, it was almost surreal. Like, I remember going down to the locker room and I was talking with my 2 assistant coaches. And I was like, I actually have no idea what to say. I'm just going to walk in and stand there and try to figure something out because I don't know what to say to this team right now. It was the toughest loss I've been a part of in my career. Yeah. And I've never been a part of a team that cried like that after a game. They were devastated. But it's like you said, like you have to learn why, how did it happen? How do we take advantage of this to become better as people? And I think the sting is gonna be there for Bridget and Christina leaving. They don't get a chance to try to make up for it, but the rest of the group, hopefully someday in the middle of a pandemic, will.
Yeah, it's when you look at like the win streak you guys had. Like you mentioned, you beat everybody handily. Like the closest game was 14 points, and like you now knowing that girls were sick, whatever. Like everybody's leaving it all on the floor, 7 girls, and you beat Holland College, who jumped, I think it was 5th or 3rd in the rankings in the first semester, like just out of nowhere. And to have that run, and you look at like the start of the game, like UKC, I think they had like a 10 or 13 nothing run on you guys to start, and for it to come back and be a 1-point game, it's tough not to, like Vanessa, you said, it's tough not to think like, what if I did this, or what if we hit one shot or 1 or 2 more free throws, and all of a sudden it's in our favor.
Yeah.
And
I remember I was fouled out in the last minute of that game, so I was watching from the sideline, and I was like this is just not a good feeling right now.
it's never good when it's so close and you can't do anything to help.
I felt pretty helpless in that last minute, but
that's tough. I don't even know what to say to that. Like, and you mentioned Bridget and Christina not coming back now, so then that's going to sting worse for them because their career ended on such heartbreak.
Yeah.
I don't know how you combat that, but then now hopefully you guys get a chance this year, whether it's shortened season, no fans, whatever, to make up for lost time and finish what they helped start, basically. Because you guys, I think
they're good kids, and they're going to stay connected to the program and the players, and they both went out on good notes. They played well that day. They gave 100% of what they had. So I mean, but that's sports, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a hard drive home, and I went back and watched the fourth quarter once. I can't keep going through it. Like I watched it once just because I had to try to remember see if I was remembering some things correctly. But that's sports, and that's the beauty of sports. That sometimes you go in and you're the 1 seed and you get upset. And right now the ACAA that tournament on both the men's and women's side, that was the closest I've ever seen championships on both sides. Quarterfinals, everything was crazy tight.
Yep.
So it's great. It's great for our league and great for the players and all programs, right?
Yeah, I think it's huge for the league because I think I've talked about it with some players from the AUS, and I think just the East Coast as a whole gets so overlooked. And I keep coming back to the rankings that they don't make any sense. And you guys had your 10-game win streak and you only went to as high as 7th, and that was the last week of the season. And I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. But I think the East Coast as a whole is so overlooked. And to have a tournament like you guys had, men's and women's, just anybody could win on any given night. It was fantastic. And if you weren't entertained, then I don't know what you're doing. But like you said, it's sports. Someone's got to win. Someone's got to lose. And it
was our turn.
It was, you learn from the experience. You take it next time. And next time you're in a game like that, you have that to fall back on. And hopefully it pushes everybody through. And then you guys are the one going on and not trying to figure out what to say in a locker room full of a team that's crying. Yeah, pretty much. Have you watched the game yet? I saw you shake your head. No?
I can't bring myself to do it. I just don't want to relive that moment.
That's fair. I think once it's done, it's done. You can't change the past.
Yeah.
I mean, you can learn a bit from it, but when it's that close and heartbreaking and you've cried through it already, don't do it again, especially in COVID when we have nothing else to do and emotions are high. And I found myself teary-eyed watching whatever on TV. Just I have no idea what is happening inside my body any longer. you look at the team that comes back. So you said Bridget's gone, Christina's gone. Do you guys lose anybody else from this year's team, or is that it?
Well, yeah, they're the only two that we lost. We lost a couple players during the year to injury and whatnot. So we originally had a roster of 13.
Yep.
We had Abby Draper go out with an ACL tear in the preseason, which was actually quite substantial. She was going to be an impact rookie for sure. So, by the time we got down to it and we went from 13 to like I said, 7 at one point, but by the end of the day that like they were the two. We also have Cassidy Hamilton who had started for us for a significant part of the year. She's not going to be returning.
Okay.
But other than that, I think it's 7. We have 7 back.
That's a decent number to have back too from a team that's going to have a chip on the shoulder to try and make up for last year. And then you look at who's back. So Vanessa obviously back for a third year. I guess for you, what are your kind of goals for next year to try and avenge, I guess, for lack of a better term, this year? It's heartbreak.
Yeah. So obviously the goal is to win. But, with the shortened season or whatever, if we play in January, just to be prepared when it starts, and just to be prepared and just be ready to play as soon as it starts, and hopefully just learn how to play, because we have a lot of new players coming in as well.
Right. So
learning how to play together with all those new players and just like a short amount of time will be difficult as well. But yeah,
I think a lot of teams are going to be in the same boat. I think the mental side of it's going to be the toughest, because now you're waiting an extra 4 months to have a game. Like September is going to come, October is going to come, November is going to come. All of a sudden you're after Christmas, and then finally league play starts. I think that's going to be the toughest part for people to adjust to, is wrapping their head around, I have an extra 4 months before any game actually matters, which will be tough. Then second to that, what's the focus then for you in the off season to kind of get yourself ready for the year? Is there any facet of your game you're working on to try and improve on, or just what's your process to kind of make sure you're ready whenever you guys can go back to the court?
For me, I'm just really trying to stay like motivated to getting better and stuff. Like I really want to personally improve like my shooting percentages and stuff like that. Love to see my percentage go up. And also for me, I would really love to improve on being like more of a vocal leader to my team.
Okay.
So I'm not the loudest person out there, but being a point guard, I see a lot more than others do on the court.
Right.
So to be able to vocalize that to my teammates and be more of a vocal leader to them would be nice.
Point guards are usually one of the loudest people. Like they have to.
Not me. I don't
talk
know.
the most. Okay.
I know. I should talk more
That's
than
fair.
I do on the court, but I'm just quiet. I don't know.
That's fine. As long as everyone has their way, and I guess maybe when you do speak up, they know something's wrong. So Vanessa speaking up, they'll shut up and listen. For you, Coach, what's kind of been your focus to kind of adapt and be ready for the season with the prolonged break in between seasons?
Well, it's been interesting because we usually have our summers planned out in phases, which kind of gear you up towards getting ready to get started in September. So on the fly, I had to start tweaking things. I've been getting a lot of player input on what their body feels like and how they need to prepare, and we're just trying to. It's nothing that we've ever done before. There's no template for this. So I think as a coaching staff, we're just trying to figure this out as we go day by day. And realistically, we only found out a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I think, or a week ago, that we were going to be able to train in the first semester. If students come to campus, our classes are going to be virtual, but campus will be open.
Okay.
So we just got the approval that we're going to be allowed to train with our athletes. Now, training is going to be very, very different because we've got the safety concerns. We have to follow public health corrections. So that's more information. So now we're heading in a different direction. So As a coach, I kind of like to have some things kind of planned out, and I kind of have a little bit of a schedule that I kind of take the players through, but there's no schedule now, and things can change in a minute. So it's been a challenge, but it's also been good for me, because it is challenging me to come up with new ideas and think outside the box, and have some fun with this. And I think that helps the players and keeps them fresh for September. And for those that don't come to campus in September, we have to have training programs for them, and and then hopefully we play in January, but we don't know for sure yet, and we probably won't know for a little while.
Now, everything is changing every day. Like it's like I work at a college in Ontario, and like we just got an email today saying like it's students are on campus for labs, and then they're expected to go home. So I don't even know if teams can train out here. Like some schools are opening gyms, some are still closed. Like everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and then you have Quebec, who's still expected to play their full season. Like they put out a schedule for October. Then how does that factor in? Because now have a half year head start on everybody else. There's no really unified, consistent message. It's just kind of province by province do your thing.
I can't see there being a national tournament.
I'm hopeful, but I don't.
I can't see it. So like Quebec having an advantage, I don't think it's going to matter. Like we're all going to be trying to, I think, play our own seasons out. I think a national tournament would be a big stretch. So, but I also think that's part of our plan. Like right now, we're saying if we can get started in January, there will not be a national tournament. So you can stretch your domestic league deeper into March, to help make up some games. So, but again, that's maybe.
Like who knows? Like basically, you're playing for provincial title. I mean, that's a feat in itself. And I mean, if you get to if they have a nationals, great. I mean, London for the women's, it's not too badly hit right now with COVID. Then you have the men's in Calgary, which seems to be up and down. You hope there is one. I don't think there's going to be any fans at any game this year. I think that's pretty much all but confirmed at this point. But you hope there's nationals, especially because last year's being canceled so close. I don't know. Hopeful, but I'm with you. I don't think there's going to be a tournament, which sucks. Selfishly sucks.
Yeah.
From a fan perspective, let alone players, I can only imagine. But for me, it's always fun to watch. Let alone,
it definitely does suck not having a national tournament.
Yes, well, I figured that too, but you never know. Some people are like, okay, well, I don't really want to travel. I mean, London, Ontario is not the best. Nothing really to do there anyways. So, I mean, if it was somewhere nicer, maybe. But, I mean, I'll digress. I grew up there. I can say that. I'm allowed. I get one free pass. I guess I'll ask you, Coach, before we get into kind of the thoughts on the team overall with the recruiting class, how did this kind of force you to change up your approach when it came to recruiting? I know you had most of your players committed before this happened, but kind of how did that really affect your approach to everything with recruiting players to the team?
Well, like you said, we had we're very fortunate. We had some kids commit pretty early this year, so quality kids that I think are going to be very good when they get on the court. It did impact us though, because we actually had a recruit who was trying to make a decision, and she was coming up for a visit on a Saturday. And everything closed down on Friday. So she had to make a decision on whether she was going to come. I hadn't had a chance to work out with her. She hadn't had a chance to see campus. We're trying to work out through videos. I'm trying to get a feel for her through coaches that I know down in the Nova Scotia area. She was trying to make a decision based on pictures on the internet and trying to talk to people. And it did get very, very difficult, and it's tough. And we had a player who's, Mary was trying to make a decision on transferring, and she couldn't come down to see campus. We were doing Zoom meetings to try to make some decisions. Again, trying to work through video and coaches' opinions, and it's challenging because you have to go on your gut instincts a lot more.
Right.
You have to really trust people. You have to trust their opinion and trust they know what they're talking about. And it's tough. And as tough as it is for me to recruit, it's, I think, triple that for student athletes trying to make a substantial decision on where they're going to go for their education and all the costs that come with that. So I think I feel very badly for players that hadn't made decisions prior to the COVID, because I don't know how they really did after. It was really tough, really tough.
I wonder if any players have asked coaches to kind of walk them around campus on like a Zoom call just to see campus. Like just someone's walking around with an iPad. That's their job for 8 hours, is just show people campus, just walk around. I mean, COVID, you have to rely on technology so much more now. I wouldn't put it past a school to have someone just walk around and just have an iPad and just live tours, I guess. Just people sitting at home watching someone walk around campus for who knows how long. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's a great idea. I mean, I know St. Thomas had set up virtual tours, but they weren't live. But that's actually that would actually be a pretty neat idea.
Now that I say, I throw out too many good ideas on here that I don't kind of think through first, and then like, that'd be a good job. I'd be okay with walking around and you just do laps every 2 hours and people just log in and watch. I mean, Instagram Live, it's free, it's easy, and away you go. So you have a 6-person recruiting class this year so far. What really stands out to you about the group that you guys have coming in? Yes, Fred, I'll ask you first from a coaching perspective, then Vanessa, kind of get what you're most excited for with the new group coming in from a playing perspective as well.
I think it's a very hardworking group, which meets our kind of our standard as a program, that you have to be willing to defend and you have to be willing to come in and work hard for your teammates. You're definitely not here for your individual stats if you're coming to St. Thomas to play. And that's what's excited me the most about this group, is that I found that many players that want to play that way and want to give to their teammates and are going to work hard for their teammates. And it's right across the board. They're all really, really good kids. They're very active in the community. And they want to come and work really, really hard, and they're very unselfish kids. So I'm really looking forward to getting them on the floor. I think it's going to be an impact group. I think they're going to be a group that's going to be pretty good for 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Then Vanessa, for you, kind of what stands out to you? So you guys have 2 U Sports transfers, Mary Besselink and Kylie Roy from UPEI, and Mary from Ottawa. You have Celine Sterkel, Kate Ross, Carly Canning, and Haley Malley as well. So it's a talented group for sure, looking on paper and to see what they bring to the table. What excites you the most as a player to add these young ladies to the mix with you guys?
I mean, I haven't seen many of them like play yet, but like every year you have a couple players coming in, but we have like quite a bit this year, and it's really exciting to just, play with new players and allow them to like get used to how we play, and then just hoping we all mix like and play well together. It's actually just really fun, like playing with new players.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you've got 4 of them are from New Brunswick or the area, if I'm not mistaken. So they're kind of hopefully already kind of familiar with what you guys do a little bit. So that always should help the transition a bit as well.
Yeah, and they're familiar with each other just personally playing on different, like a couple of them were part of the Adidas camp, top 40 camp together. Haley and Celine are former teammates at Moncton High School.
Right. Yeah.
So bringing them in and gelling them as a group, I'm not that concerned, to be honest. Like, I know their personalities, and I think that's going to be really. I never want to look past that process, but I think it's going to be a seamless process with this group. To me, what I like the most, I think Vanessa's just not saying, is she to be an MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year, And in a program like ours where we're pressuring the ball so much, she had to do a lot of legwork, and it took its toll, I think, as the season went on. And I think we've got some kids coming in next year that are going to be able to help her out. And I mean, we're not looking to reduce her minutes, but we're looking to be a little bit more strategic on when she plays more minutes.
Gotcha.
And I think the group coming in defensively is going to allow us to extend and put more pressure on the ball. So it takes some of the heat off of Vanessa, which is, I think, a good thing for her too.
Fresh legs a bit in key situations and not fouling out in the last minute, and kind of conserve that minute or two for later on in a game where she doesn't feel helpless on the bench. I think that I'm sure Vanessa would agree that that's a good. She'd much rather be on the floor than helplessly waiting to see what happens on the bench.
Yeah, I definitely just need to stop fouling as much in general, but
Okay, well,
yeah.
we all have our areas of improvement. I guess fouls. I mean, if you play like defensive player of the year, like the amount you pressure the ball, those are going to come.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Some refs a little bit softer than others. You can chalk up probably quite a few of them to the officials and not yourself. So hopefully that helps alleviate some of the pain of some of the fouls from the year.
Okay.
And looking ahead to kind of next year, you guys have already touched on it a bit. The goal is to win. Basically, it's to kind of advance past where it was this year and kind of continue that success into the playoffs and into hopefully a championship. But for both of you guys, what can, I guess, fans, people across the CCAA expect from the Tommies this year? And I guess, Vanessa, I'll start with you. What can people expect from St. Thomas women's basketball this season?
Well, we've always been like very defensive minded. So you're gonna see a lot of like pressure, scrappy, aggressive defense. And it's just fun to play that way. Like, honestly, I wouldn't want to play any other way. But, you're going to see us dive on loose balls, hustle, and all of that. And it's going to be fun to watch.
Fred, from your perspective, what can people expect from the team this year?
Yeah, I think Vanessa's right on the money. Like, as long as I've been here, defense has been the focal point. Getting out and outworking the other team. If you don't dive for a loose ball, you can come sit and hold one on the bench if you want. We are going to get out. We're going to pressure. We're going to run. And we're going to be deep. We're going to use our roster. We've got a lot of good legs. We got a lot of good kids that are going to come work hard. And you can make some mistakes in the offensive end. We're fine with that. And if you're going to defend, then you're going to get minutes, and that allows us to really play what I think is an exciting brand of basketball.
Yeah.
And as a coach, it's not easy to motivate a team to want to get out and defend.
Right.
When the culture of the program is such that the players now understand the exciting way that you play and the freedom that we give you on offense because we lock down on the defensive end, it starts to take care of itself. That motivation is there for them because they know it's fun and it's exciting and it works and they see the dividends of it. So it's not always an easy process, but with the group that we've got coming back, I think the leaders are going to sell that pretty easily.
I think it's a healthy mix this season of returnees with experience coming from last year's, obviously, heartbreak, kind of learned from that. And then you have the 6 newcomers, 2 of which are bringing the university experience with them, fresh legs, and just kind of alleviate or strategically, like you said, allocate some of Vanessa's minutes to take some of that pressure off. I think it's a really intriguing group. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, you guys came in last year, I believe it was 9th in the country. Hopefully that, I don't see why that wouldn't be the same, or if not a little bit higher this year. I think turned a lot of heads last year. Still don't think it's the attention's where it needs to be for the ACAA as a whole. But I think it's a really intriguing group that you guys have come together this year. Was there anything we missed on the team that you want to shed some light on before we get into the end of it where of beating the same drum until we get coverage to where it should be. Is there anything we missed on the team that you guys want to touch on and shed some light on?
You go ahead. Anything?
I'm not sure. I feel like we pretty much hit everything.
That's a good sign then. That's a real good sign.
Yeah, my key thing here, Tyler, to be honest, is I really hope that we can at least get on the floor because, like I said, we've taken some teams to the national tournament. We went to 4 straight back in the early 2010, like 2012, 2015, I think. This team feels like those teams.
Yeah.
It's deep, it's talented, and it's ready to work hard. It might be one of the better teams that I've ever assembled. And I sure want to see them play. Yeah.
I think when you have that anticipation, like the expectations, like you said, the team is one of the best you've ever had or assembled, to have a season kind of go to the wayside, I mean, it makes it so much harder. I do have one question to ask you, Coach, before I forgot as we went through. What was it like to have your daughter on the team last year?
Well, I'd coached her before. So it's actually, it's a bit funny because when I coached her when she was younger, I did it because I'm dad and you want to spend time in the gym. And then we came home one day and she got mad at me at the soccer table because I yelled at her for not boxing out at practice. So I said, look, I'm doing this because I'm your dad. Like I want to have spent, quality time with you here in the gym and stuff. So she didn't quite get it. So we took a little break. From Daddy being coach, which was good. But then now that she's back, it's really special. It's it is a bit of a different, unique challenge to have your daughter on the team at this level because the girls are always wondering like, geez, is Emma going to tell Fred that we're doing this or Emma's like, it's like, you got to interrogate her pretty hard to try to get information out of her. So I respect that. So I don't ask her questions about the team. And, she's older now. So we know that like when we're at the gym, it's coach and player. And when we get home, it's Fred and Emma. And it's just, it's brought us closer together. So it's pretty special.
Was it a tough recruiting sell to get her to come to St. Thomas? Or was that pretty much set in stone from the start?
No, that was done long time ago. My wife and I talked about it a little bit. Yeah. I want to make sure that when I approach her, that I give her the experience that every other player would have being recruited. So, I just told her I'd like to sit down and talk with her about her plans for next year. And I kind of started the process and she's like, well, I'm coming to Stu. If you're going to tell me I'm going to play, I'm coming. I'm like, well, that was easy enough. Anyway, you want to go get some ice cream? Like,
If only every recruit meeting could be that easy.
Yeah, I know.
That would be so much less stress for everybody involed.
Well, Vanessa so made like 2 months. So.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, it's a long time, but I made the right decision.
Good things come to those who wait, and I mean, it turned out well for the first 2 years. So I mean, that's all right.
Yeah.
One question I started to ask a lot of people on this, and I don't really know how to phrase it, so I'm just going to go with it. How can we kind of grow the attention around not only Canadian collegiate and university basketball, but women's collegiate and university basketball? I think that's so vastly underappreciated, undervalued, undercovered. Conversation really starts with the men's game at U Sports, and then it stops. And you see it with the NBA, and it stops for the WNBA. I don't really know what the question is anymore. So I'm just kind of, Vanessa, for you as a player, what would you like to see happen or be improved upon to try and get that level of coverage, attention, essentially the respect level that everybody deserves, coaches, players, programs, whatever, to get to where it should be?
I don't know. It's kind of tough because I feel like everyone knows that we deserve more attention, but it just doesn't happen. But I feel like social media these days is like really huge and could definitely be used in that way to like talk more about women's sports and like university basketball and all that. But also I know like for me when I was younger, I used to go to like the women's UMB games and it was like the biggest thing to me. So, you know, I feel like kids should be going out more to like women's basketball games and stuff like that to like really open their eyes to how talented some of these players are.
Yep. And not just show up with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter because you want to get a seat for the men's game. It gets the women's game it's much more team oriented too. Like Fred, you said, like the culture of Stu is you're not here for your individual stats. Like it's team basketball, and it's so different from the men's game, and I mean that in a good way because it is so you're playing with all 5 players on the floor. You're going to have the odd individual that just cares about her own stats and that's it. It's all that matters. She's going to get hers and that's it. But it's so much more team focused. Just wish people would show up more than 5 minutes left in the game and watch. And you say, like you said, two people say that they deserve more coverage or women deserve more coverage, but then nothing ever happens. Put action behind your words and follow through. And then there's also a lot of people that cover the men's game that don't even really bat an eye at the women's game. And I think that's a big problem too. I guess for you, Fred, kind of same thing. It's what can we do to get this to where it should be? Like you said, you've been around. This is your 18th year coming on. You've seen a lot of different things over your time. What can we do to get this to where it deserves to be?
Yeah, I think there's 2 layers to that. I think there's, the first layer is what Vanessa's tapped into there, which is the grassroots of basketball. And I think coaches are doing a better job of bringing out the younger kids to the St. Thomas games, to the UNB games. We're conscious of inviting teams to come watch us play and talk to the younger girls. And that's it. I think in that group, you're hoping that you're going to impact someone, not just to play at our level, but who may go on to be in a position where they can do something to advocate for women's basketball.
Right.
And then the second layer to that is we need people that are willing to put women's basketball to the forefront. You're looking at the WNBA right now, hauling in massive numbers for viewership.
Yep.
Like way larger than anybody expected it was going to be. Well, they didn't do anything different this year than they did last year as far as the players on the floor. What's different is that ESPN has bought in, and ESPN is giving these women the exposure they deserve. And so that's what we need to see in Canada for our athletes is, for at the U Sport level, at the CCAA level, we need someone willing to step out and start putting these games to the forefront and respecting these athletes for the work that they put in. I've lived through the whole, is U Sport and is ACAA or CCAA as good as U Sport? And we have these arguments back and forth. And clearly U Sport is a higher level of basketball than the CCAA. It's clear. But you can't say that the athletes work harder. Like I know the athletes in my program are working hard. They're working very, very hard. And if nothing else at its base level, give them respect for that. Come out and watch these athletic, intelligent women play the game they love. And I don't think that's much to ask. No. But we need people at the corporate level to start to buy in more and let these young women be exposed more for the athletes that they are.
Right. I keep coming back to the U Sports, the tournament this year, because Sport Networks will they've never put CCAA highlights on TV, which to me it's an issue. That's a big issue. But the U Sports final this year, and it's everything is Carleton. They've won 15 titles in 18 years. That's fine. The highlight pack, Dalhousie led at half, and 30-second highlights, you see 28 seconds of Carleton. That right there is the biggest. That's a big issue right there. There's two teams in a game. Only thing you see of Dalhousie is when Carleton celebrates their win and you see Dal's name, 65 points. There's two teams in a game, and 30 seconds you give them of attention, you show one of the two.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's financially feasible now to get every game on live TV or what have you, but it can't be hard to get just scores on a ticker at least. Just have it represented on your 8 hours of Sports Center every day. Like it just constantly runs, just so it's visible somewhere.
Well, I mean, to that point, Tyler, I mean, like if you look at the ticker, like I'm watching the WNBA game. Washington is playing Seattle, and I'm watching this game before I come down to meet with you folks.
Mm-hmm.
And on the bottom of the screen is the Italian Serie A scores rolling in on the ticker, right? I'm like, they don't even show highlights of Italian football on TSN for the vast majority of the time, but there is this ticker on ESPN of Italian soccer, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't cost them a cent
No.
to put CCAA ticker on there. I agree with you 100%. And we're not asking for much. We're asking for that exposure. That's it. Just give us that exposure.
Even if you just use the top 15 rankings, make them actually matter for something, not just talking points right now, because that's really all they are is background noise. Make them actually mean something. Just put the top 15 so people actually know who the top 15 best teams are at that time. Then they may look into it more and see, okay, like they may not even understand what the abbreviation stands for. So even that alone, they're going to look that up, and then who knows the wormholes of the internet we all end up on. Just anything at this point. Like it can't just be.
Also, it rewards the programs that are putting themselves out there year after year. Like,
right.
I know for us at St. Thomas, we've been nationally ranked 15 of my 18 years, and like that'd be 15 years of having St. Thomas University, a small school here in New Brunswick, on a national ticker. For recruiting purposes, and not just for basketball, but for our student body, right? Yeah, like who is St. Thomas and where are they? And why are they up on that ticker for the last 15 years? Right? Like and that's only helping grow the sports, the programs, the universities, but it's also helping younger people make better decisions on what university options are available for them.
Right.
Right.
And like Vanessa, you mentioned social media. Like there's no end to how far that can reach. Like you share a photo, and away it goes. Like it can go anywhere and everywhere. A tweet can go anywhere.
There's just so many. Like when I was 12, I don't think I had an iPod or an iPad or any of that. But there's just so many young kids out there that are on social media all day. So it's a lot of like. What could be like exposure for us, I guess.
And I could go on this for hours. There's so much that can be done that people I'm not comparing the two by any means. I don't want people to get this twisted the wrong way. But you see with the Black Lives Matter movement, the Blackout Tuesday, a lot of people just shared the black square. Oh, okay, I did my part, and then that's it. I'm done. No, you can't just say something and then not do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like there's people that'll say they're going to cover women's game, and then this can be done. Like they deserve the attention. Like they should be equal with the men's, and then silence. It's just silence speaks louder than their words. Like it's so much more to do than what's being done. It's a shame that even like smaller outlets that just cover men's, that aren't your big corporate networks, everybody just focuses on men's.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of women's coverage, if any, out there, which needs to change, hopefully soon. And especially now with COVID and the season being delayed longer, that's 4 extra months that nobody's talking about CCAA, U Sports. Any momentum you had from last season, they've just lost because nobody's doing anything to keep it afloat. I don't know. I really don't know what to say.
Well, I think, our leagues have to start doing some stuff too. Like I'd like to see the ACAA starting, to put out some, throwback Tuesdays or throwback Thursdays or, finals appearance Fridays, or you can give whatever kind of like we boxed out once Wednesdays. I don't really care. You can give whatever kind of a clever name you want, but like I think the leagues need to be involved in that too.
Right.
They've got more corporate connections than any of the individual programs have. But like you're saying, on social media, like the league should just be pumping out information through that first semester to make sure people are staying in connected to these programs and sports and athletes.
Like as soon as nationals ends, like obviously you're gonna have like a week or 2 weeks where everything just unwinds. But like once April hits, like that's when, even if it's just one post a day, Monday to Friday, you have your themes. Like you said, your throwback Thursdays, you can do anything you want, really. Like we're recording this on International Friendship Day. Like you post team photos, like just little things, just
right
to stay relevant. Because once nationals ends, the conversation stops until the season starts. Then it's kind of there's a little bit of chatter, and then nationals hits. Then people pay attention for 4 days, and then back to nothing for 5 months. That 5-month window, it's the death of any momentum you had the last year. No matter what you did, if you don't do anything in the summer, it's all for naught. But hopefully someone listens to this and starts putting more action to their words, because there needs to be some others out there to cover the women's game and help.
Well, for sure, especially at a time when our women's national program is just booming with success, right?
Yeah. You saw the effect that the Raptors had on the nation when they won the title. Well, the women's should be right there with them with the national success they've had. And the Canadians in the WNBA, that it's increasing, and their talent and everything else. And it's just, again, falling way short of where it deservingly should be. I think there's no other way to put it. It's nowhere close to where it should be.
Yeah.
But anything else you two want to add on that? Anything really on the team? Anything you got going on before I wrap it up? If silence hits, that means we hit everything. That means that's a good sign.
No, I just want to say thank you very much for having us on. And, I know you and I have talked about this a little bit, Tyler, but, thank you very much for doing what you're doing, because you are part of the solution. You are part of the voice that these young athletes get to have and deserve to have. So, it is people like you that are putting in a lot of extra time and giving this, giving the platform to athletes like Vanessa and some of the other people that you've been bringing onto your podcast. I've been listening to them all. It's fantastic. So thanks for having us on, but thank you for doing everything that you're doing for basketball in our country.
Well, I appreciate that. And I mean, it's a small team of one. Like to me, it's just fun. It's a lot of fun just to hear stories. Like, I mean, I get caught, I don't know how many times just listening, and then you forget that you have to ask a question or talk or give your feedback. So, but no, I appreciate you guys taking time to do this. It's the first of 112 previews from now until this comes out August 3rd to November 8th. I think there's 8 teams a week for 16 weeks. It's going to be fun. This is if this doesn't bring attention and this doesn't show people that there's an appetite for basketball coverage in Canada from one person, I'll give it up on November 9th. I'll just wrap it up and call it a day, because I don't know what more one person can do. But anytime you guys want to jump back on this, by all means, we'll make it happen. And hopefully there's a season in January we can talk about again.
Thank you.